All right, I am live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another one of my chit chats. What's going on here? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another one of my chit chats. My name is Maribel Chima, and yes, it's one of those chit chats where we come and we talk about parenting. And these days, I am talking about bedtime stories. Who talks about bedtime stories? Oh, yes, I do. I talk about bedtime stories because it is a culture that many parents do not know that they are living is a culture that is so relevant, and yet many parents do not know that they are living on the table. If you know what you can do with bedtime stories, especially if you're a parent of young children, if you know how you can use bedtime stories to build a solid foundation for your children, then you will run here whenever I am talking about bedtime stories. Whenever I'm talking about stories, or whenever I'm talking about introducing your child or your children to stories. So let's talk about, introducing children to bedtime stories and why we should make our bedtime stories structured, or our bedtime, how we should make bedtime storytelling a structured exercise. You as a parent, many of you, okay, I'm sure many parents here already tell stories. So while we're talking, you're like, oh, it's not a big deal. I already tell stories, right? You already tell stories, you already read to your children, you already lie down with some of your children while they are waiting to go to sleep, right? Some of us do that. Our little children, you probably lie down on the bed with them before they go to sleep. You tuck them in, you say good night, you do all of these things. But today I want to say to you, what you are missing is having a system. Even your bedtime story, your story time with your children, your pillow talk, you can create a system for it. And when we say create a system, we are not saying that you should make it. Sorry, I need to get this to blow the right way. That's it. All right. So when we say make it structured, we are not saying that you should make it rigid. When we say make it structured, we are not saying that you should turn it to some monotonous, exercise. It's more like get it to be creative, but have a system around it. Because when you have a system around anything that you are doing, children are better able to internalize that thing. Okay, I will talk to you about, children internalizing things. I'll tell you a little story. Okay, if we have some time before this comes to an end, I'll tell you a little story about, having your children internalize, right, the things that you're teaching them. Because sometimes we sit down as parents and we think, I am doing all of this with my children. So automatically they know it. And you wake up one day and realize that your child didn't internalize any of those things. And so when the dynamics change, or when you are removed from the dynamics, it's neither here nor there. It doesn't mean anything to the child anymore. And that is usually because it was not, a system was not created around it that allowed or helped the child to internalize. So bedtime without a system becomes a rushed activity. It becomes an inconsistent activity. But when you can create a system around bedtime story, then it becomes something that the child can internalize. But structure becomes transformational when we structure bedtime stories. When we structure our children's story time, we structure bedtime story, then it becomes a transformational experience. Okay, now let's look at okay, I have a lot that is distracting me around here. I think I should silence some of these notifications. So I have these notifications coming in that they can be really very distracting. All right, so let's look at why it's important. Okay, I'll just ignore them. All right, let's look at why it's very, very important that we put some structure around bedtime stories. Well, why we should put some structure around the things we do with our children, even bedtime stories. Number one, routines without structure produces random results. Okay, your results are neither here nor there, and in many cases, your results are a fluke because you just do it today and the result is good today. And the next time, you probably don't get the same result because you have not created structure around it. There is no system around it. Okay. So for some of us, it is brush your teeth, pray, and then go to sleep. But routines alone does not build connection. All right. So bedtime story can be something more than just a routine. Let's create a system around it so that it is much more than just a simple routine. A system is different from a routine, okay? And that's because a system includes what are we going to read today? It's not just about, okay, we are going to have bedtime story at the end of the day. So for a lot of us, that's what it is. Okay, it's going to be at the end of the day, I would stop and I'll read a bedtime story to my child and then I will go away. All right, so sometimes you go in there, you don't even know what to read, and then you begin to look for what it is that you are going to read. Okay, but when we put a system around it, okay, not just a routine, you put a system around it, then you come with what exactly it is that you want to read. Okay, you also come with what exactly it is you want to ask. Sorry. Remember, I said that bedtime story, having that culture of telling or reading bedtime stories to your children is a powerful tool that every parent should use. Parents of babies and young children, parents of toddlers, parents of school-age children, and I even dare say parents of teenagers. Do you know that if you have created a gap, a disconnection in your relationship with your children, one of the best way to get back or to cover that gap, okay, to fill that gap or to, you know, reconnect with your children can be bedtime stories. I'm going to be showing you how you can reconnect with your child with bedtime stories, right, in our 21-day challenge that is coming up in just 9 days. Yes, so let's move on. So now, when you also structure bedtime stories, then what value you are going to shape is one of the things that you will think about before you actually have that time with your child. Now it is structured. So meaning you can create a whole curriculum, right? You can create a whole curriculum for your bedtime story system with your children. That does not make it doesn't make it serious. Sometimes we are so afraid when we hear curriculum, right, as parents, because all of a sudden it feels like, oh, now it's going to be serious. No, it actually helps you come with real content. It actually helps you make your bedtime story effective. It actually allows for fun, creativity, and a lack of that whole monotony where you come every time reading a story that the child has probably read before, reading the same story every time, doing the same thing, coming with the same approach all the time, doing the same boring, bedtime story. You take the book, you read, and that's it. No, when you come with some structure to bedtime story with your child, then you get creative. The child is excited because every day is a new experience. So that's why we say bedtime story shouldn't just be a routine. It should be an experience. Bedtime story shouldn't just be a routine. It should be a system that creates transformation for your child. And these are part of the things that you need to incorporate into it. Before you come for the bedtime story, I said, okay, you know what you're going to read. You know the questions that you're going to ask. You know how you're going to go about asking those questions. So in the 21-day challenge, this is what we're going to be doing with you. So for every day, there's going to be a new experience. For every day, we're going to show you a different way to show up for your child. For every day, we're going to show you a different style, all right? A different strategy to use, right, when you show up for your child. Without structure, bedtime depends on your mood. Without structure, bedtime will actually produce little or no results, because you come back the day you are tired, okay, you will probably say, you know something, I beg, I'm too tired, nothing. Or the day you're tired, you just go there and read them a lazy story. The day you're tired, you just go there and they're asking you questions and you are not even ready to, answer any of them. The days you're tired, you go there and you don't even have any questions to ask them, because now you can't even force your brain to begin to think of what to do. So there is a lack of creativity. There's a lack of fun and excitement in your bedtime story time. You see that? So this is why it's important that you create structure in your bedtime story. This is why structured bedtime story is very important. System reduces mental load for busy parents. When you put systems to your bedtime story, it actually reduces. So that's why I say reduces mental load. That's why I said it can actually become a whole curriculum like we're having. So when we have this challenge, what we're trying to do is we're trying to hold parents' hands and show them how they can achieve these things and achieve them, in effective ways. So we can come here and I can have a 2-day class where I teach you about, how you can have bedtime stories, how you can incorporate bedtime stories, and it's a lot of theory. We talk about it, we stay in the class, you ask questions, and then I give you the 21-day challenge to go and do on your own. First off, you will struggle with even doing it on your own, right? A lot of times you will struggle with doing it on your own, right? Because consistency is usually a challenge. And then the next one, you will struggle with what strategy to use every day, isn't it? Now, you will also struggle with the system. I mean, you will also struggle with the how. You will struggle with the how. You will struggle, with, putting a system around it. And that's because you did not think it through. That's because you did not create a curriculum for it. That's because you did not think of how you will present it in a way that is exciting. That's because you did not consider your child and how your child learns, and all of that in that. But what we're going to be doing with you and for you in the challenge is we're going to be put in the how. We're going to put in the how into it so that you are not just coming with bedtime stories. You're coming with all that you need to make it effective. You're coming with the right questions. You're coming with the right lessons. You're coming with the right values to your bedtime stories. Okay, when parents don't have story prompts, you don't have conversation starters, you don't have a clear focus, you are all about the place. So in that bedtime story challenge for every day, you will have prompts that you will use to get your child interested. You will have prompts that you will use to get your child locked in. Do you know for 21 days, you can get your child locked in and excited, waiting for the next day's story just because of how we have structured it. So you will have the right prompts. You will know how to start conversations in those story times. So the story times are tailored to help you start and have conversations with your children, because that is the whole idea. The whole idea is that you connect with your children, right? The whole idea is that we're able to tell stories and connect through those stories, right? Do you know that your child can be going through a situation, and just the way you structure or you carve your bedtime stories, you will have solutions for your child, prompts that will lead your child to find their solutions by themselves without you having to, micromanage them or you having to tell them what to do. You can use story to actually guide your child, right, without the child even realizing it. This is the power of bedtime stories. This is the power of storytelling in our parenting. Okay. Now, when we structure our bedtime story, it removes decision fatigue. It removes decision fatigue because now you already know what it is that you want to teach. You don't need to think. You don't need to start, thinking at that point where you are telling the story. You have done all the thinking. And in this case, in this challenge, we have done all the thinking for you. Now you can just follow and you can now be consistent for those 21 days, because you need about 21 days to consistently show up for your child, for you to cultivate this habit. Even if you're a parent who's been doing it before, stay in there for 21 days and you'll find out that it becomes a tradition. Okay, it becomes a tradition. It becomes something that your child can look forward to, and it becomes something that you can now do with ease, because it's not in the amount of time that you spend telling stories or having bedtime stories with your children. It is the effectivity of it. So that's why we say all you need is about 10 to 15 minutes, and you can create a connection, a channel of connection, right, between you and your child that can last for a whole lifetime. All right. You can collect all of that just simply because of this simple activity and these simple principles that we're going to be teaching you, or the strategies that we're going to be teaching you during the 21-day bonding and bedtime stories challenge. Number three, children thrive on predictability, right? And emotional rituals. Now, because your child, when you put structure to bedtime stories, your child knows what to expect. So usually we would have the routine that is the particular time that you tell the bedtime story. But apart from that routine, apart from, the timeline, you also have stories that have been structured. You know what to ask, you know what to do. You have a special activity that you're probably doing together. You have a special preamble that you're bringing to the story. You probably decide on a particular day that you're going to tell your own story and your own experience about something. So you see, your child is charged, your child is involved, your child is excited throughout. So your child knows, right, what to expect. Your child is expectant. That's the word. So your child is expectant, your child is involved, and your child, can predict, right? Your child can predict you when you stay consistently showing up, right, for bedtime story. Your child can predict their routines in the evening. Very powerful. Dear parents, anything, whatever it is that you do in your parenting, make sure that your parenting is predictable. Make sure that your child can predict what to expect from you. Saying, my children, they don't know where I'm going to come from. It's a wrong parenting. It's so wrong in parenting. Ensure that your children know where you're coming from. Ensure that your children know what to expect, right, from you. It's very, very important. All right. Number three, all right, what did I give you? I gave you number two. All right. So when bedtime story is structured, then you have a consistent flow in your story. Your story, you can reflect on the story, right? Reflection is easier when you have structured bedtime story. You have thought about the story, you have decided what story you're going to tell, you have the right questions you're going to ask, you have the right strategy, or the right way or right strategy that you're using for a particular story. So it is usually very constructive and it's usually very focused. Now it's easy for you to reflect with your child, at the end of the story, when you have it all put together like that. Their nerve system relaxes and their heart opens to receive when they can predict what it is that they're expecting, when they can predict their evening routine and they look forward to that time that they are spending with you, all right, whether it's just 15 minutes. Do you know that those 15 minutes that you spend with your child during bedtime story can actually be the highlights of their day? Your child can go through the entire day waiting for the best moment, that is the last 15 minutes, of the day with you before they go to sleep. So yes, that's what bedtime story does for you. Prompts unlock deeper conversations. Okay, number four, when you structure your bedtime story, you know the right prompts that you're going to ask your child. You know the right prompts that you're going to use, right, to get your child to open up and be a part of the conversation. When you use prompts, it leads to deeper conversations. When you know how to use prompts, you're able to get more from your child. And that's what we're going to be teaching you. That's part of what we're going to be showing you during the 21-day bedtime story and bonding challenge. We'll be showing you how to use prompts when you tell stories. Our job is to make sure that your bedtime stories are not monotonous. Our job is to make sure that your bedtime stories are not boring. Our job is to make sure that your child is excited about bedtime stories. Our job is to make sure that you don't just come with stories without making it a proper learning opportunity or learning moment for your child. Every day can be a learning opportunity. Every day can be a learning moment. Every day can be you passing down a conviction. Every day can be you helping your child build a mindset. If you come to bedtime stories, if you come with structure into your bedtime story. You are able to put all of this. But if your bedtime story time or bedtime story is not structured, then you realize you're just doing the same thing and you're doing it for the sake of it. You have heard that they say it's good to read to your children. You have heard that they say you can introduce your children to loving books by bedtime story. And so, okay, let us just show up now. Let us quickly show up. So before you show up, you just look and then go to the shelf and pull one book and just walk to the child, and all of that. There is no structure there. You're going to be wasting the opportunity. This is why you should be a part of this challenge so that we can show you the how. Okay? So that we can show you the how. Okay? Now that you know the why. All right? If you don't know the why, we will also tell you the why. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to do right here now, right? I'm trying to tell you why this is important. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to go about this to make bedtime story effective. All right? Most parents stop at, did you enjoy your day? So we show up and we go, how was your day? Did you enjoy your day? But let's look at prompts like, what would you have done differently today? All right, what would you have done differently today? Oh, have you ever felt like that character? You're reading a story and then you stop somewhere along the line and you're like, have you ever felt like that character? And the child has to think, and before you know it, deep conversations will come up. So we want to teach you how to use prompts as you tell your children's story, because we know that it is in those conversations that the connection lies. In those conversations you have with your children, whether they are toddlers, school-age children, or your teenagers, it is right in those conversations that your connection lies. So we want to help you know how to start those conversations, know how to make those conversations not look like investigation, right? Not look like probe, right? Because some of us, all we know how to do is probe. And our teenagers don't like it when they can see through you. They can see that you're trying to probe. They will end up feeling judged and end up feeling investigated. So why don't you use the kind of prompts that just invites them to a conversation? So we want to show you how to use prompts when you tell stories to your children or when you have those pillow talks with your children, so that your child doesn't coil in, but rather brings to the table, all that needs to be shared in your relationship. All right. So when you do this, you get all of these through bedtime stories. Okay, so let's move on. What lessons did you learn today? All right, they can tell you about something, you finish talking about it, and you're asking questions like, cool. So what lesson did you learn right there? All right, so these are all different kinds of prompts that you can use. All right, so prompts will build critical thinking in your child. All right, so in your conversation, you find that your child is thinking. Your child is not just, it's not just doing some ritual. The child, your prompts will lead to the child thinking. It also brings emotional intelligence. It helps the child to build emotional intelligence when you have the right prompts and you know how to show up for those bedtime stories. Of course, it will also help the child begin to think morally. Moral reasoning is put into your bedtime story and into your dynamics. You are the one that will prompt all of these things in your child through simple bedtime stories. Without prompts, stories end up just being entertainments. Okay, without prompts, stories do not transform your child. All right, and we have said that in this 21-day challenge, we want to help you introduce the culture of bedtime stories so that you can use that to create fun between you and your child, to create connection between you and your child, to create transformation between you and your child, to pass down convictions to your child, to help your child begin to think critically, and of course reason, emotional intelligence, and then moral intelligence. We want to put all of these, or moral reasoning, we want all of these in your relationship and in your conversation with your children. That is why bedtime story has to be structured, and that's why we're bringing a structured 21-day bedtime story and bonding challenge to you. So if you have not registered, we have quite a number of parents who are already in that challenge. All right. But if you have not registered, this is your cue. This is your prompt. If you have not registered, why don't you check in the comment section and then use the detailed information and the link in the comment section to register right away. This challenge begins in 9 days' time. Before you know it, boom, we're halfway, and then you're coming. Can I join? Yes, you will get to join us then, but you will pay more for less. Do you want that? I don't think so. All right. When we put system will build long-term communication habits between you and your child. Yes, when you put system into your bedtime story, then you create a channel of conversation between you and your child that is long-term. Yes, that is long-term. And this is really powerful in any relationship when you can create a channel that can help you build your connection over time, that can help you create some permanence in your relationship, all right, with your child or with anybody at all, right? So, but in this case, with your child, children who talk at 7 will talk to you even at age 17 or at 20. So when you get your child to start talking to you freely, when you get your child to enjoy your company at 7, and you are consistent, you're consistently using that communication channel that you have created between you and your child. I promise you, the child that talks to you at 7 will still talk to you at 17 if you know how to show up, with a system in your bedtime story. If you know how to show up when you are present for that child. And it's not about the length of the time. I've said this enough. I can't say this enough. It's not about the length of the time. It is about how well you show up for them. But communication is trained. If we train it early, then we would see it consistent in our relationship with our children. So when your child expects, after every story we would talk, then your child knows that we will talk, and that becomes a part of it. What you are doing is you are building expression skills in your child. You are teaching your child how to express themselves. You are teaching your child how to start conversations even with adults. Yes, if your child can start conversations with you, if your child can hold conversations with you, then your child can start and hold conversations even with other adults or older people. All right, you're also teaching your child listening skills. Okay, when your bedtime story time is structured, you're teaching your child listening skills. You are also teaching your child trusts, right? You're teaching them a trust pattern, all right? And then, of course, you are teaching your child whatever it is that is locked in those stories, the concept that is locked in those stories, in the character, from empathy to self, whatever it is that is in the story. That's why structure is important, because structure will allow you pick the right stories. Structure will allow you decide, what do I want to teach my child about? So that will now determine what story you are going to teach. Structure allows you to look through the stories, okay, or to go through the stories that you probably want to read with your child. And that way, you know that it's not just any story or it's not just any book you're reading from. It is something that is tailored to what it is that you have decided you want to teach or you want to share with your child that day. So you see all the powerful things that structure brings into your story time with your child. Very, very key. All right. Number 5, system builds. Okay, I have talked about long-term communication, and then a guided system turns 15 minutes into a legacy. All right. So for you, it's just 15 minutes, but when that system is structured, okay, and that system is guided, you know the right. You know the right questions. You're using the right prompts. You know the right information that you want to pass. You know the right thing that you want to talk about, right? And with that, you're building mindset in your child. Okay, you're building their mindset. You're passing down convictions. You're passing convictions that are probably, beliefs that your family has, right? Convictions that are that are synonymous to your thought system, to your beliefs, to your values as a family. What have you done or what are you doing? You are passing down this to your child. This is you building legacy, dear parents. What is it that you believe in? What is it that you want your child to embody? What is it that you want to pass down to your child? What perspective do you want your child to see? What convictions do you want to pass down to your child? Tie it up in a story. Tell that story during bedtime stories, and with time, as you do this, right, your child begins to trust, your child begins to believe. And once your child believes something and your child trusts you, that is it right there. A conviction is already building within the child. And that is you, dear parents, passing down a legacy. It's more than just stories, it's more than just telling stories. It's now you passing down a legacy. Wouldn't you rather do that? And now, if you introduce this early in the child's life, it means that at 10, you can still be doing this. At 12, the child is still trusting you. At 15, your child still has their ears open to your instructions, open to your convictions, open to your inspirations, open to your beliefs. At 17, you still have a child who believes, because you have an open channel where your communication, or where trust, belief, connection can pass through bedtime stories. And do you know, from bedtime stories, you are moving into deeper connections and deeper conversations with your child, even at the point that your child has become too old, or your child has become old and not even at home for you to tell them bedtime stories. You have already established a line of communication that's always going to be available for a lifetime for you and your child to continue to have conversations. This is so powerful. Okay. 105 minutes weekly. That's what it means. Okay. Over 400 minutes monthly and thousands of minutes yearly. That's what your 15 minutes a day bedtime story with your child can translate to. So that's why I say all the time, it's not about the amount of time that you put in. It's not about how long you show up. It's how effective the time that you show up is. And that's why you need structure to your bedtime story. That's why you need to be a part of this 21-day story time and, bonding challenge, so that you learn how to put structure in that. And do you know that you may not even be around, and you can still, have those story session with your child even while you are working, from afar, or you are traveling. Just because you have established that line, you see your child is excited, the child is expectant, and the child still shows up with the same enthusiasm, because while you are at home, you have already started that culture, you have opened that line, and so you can always use that line of connection or communication between you and your child. This is why we are saying, join the 21-day bedtime story and bonding challenge. It is starting in 9 days, and as of today, it's still the early bird fee. You can still pay the early bird fee of 5,000 naira, and we'll be with you for 21 days, giving you all the tools that you need, answering all your questions, and showing up for you and your champions every day. Okay, every day. Now, that is legacy when you can create this kind of connection with your child. Okay, that is value transferred when you can create this kind of connection with your child. All right, now this is why we have created this, and this is why I think that every parent who can hear this needs to key in. I don't just think, I know. If you key into this, I tell you, the results will be transformational. You already have bedtime. We know that. You already have bedtime. You already read stories to your children. But my charge today is that you need structure, and we are here to help you with that structure. Join our 21-day bedtime stories challenge, okay? So that we can use one story, one night, and one conversation to create memorable times, okay, to create an exciting, memorable, and transformational experience between you and your child or your children. Thank you for joining me again today. If you're catching the replay, let me know where you are joining me from, and if you got, if um you got transformed by this session. Okay, so let us know what your takeaway is from the session. Okay, and if you have questions, put it right down in the comment section and I will respond to you. All the link that you need and the information that you need to be a part of the challenge will be in the comment section. Use it and join us. We have parents already seated and waiting for the challenge, and I cannot wait. I can't wait, for for this challenge, because it's going to be transformational, exciting. If you know us and you followed our reading challenge, then you know that we are the go-to place when it comes to challenges that you can use to build a culture, right? That you can build a culture or cultivate, a culture, a love for anything at all, from reading to writing to anything at all. So always look out for our challenges, because we bring them to you every now and then. Thank you for joining me again. I will see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. when I bring you another exciting episode of our Chit Chat session. Thank you. Bye. Have a fantastic evening. Bye. Thank you for joining me. Bye.